Oh, hello. Okay.
Starting off strong today with Justin, Jessica, and Austin are our happy couple all along. So great to see each other. Lovey-dovey from the start. Never ends. Super cute.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who didn't see that one coming?
Yeah, it really wasn't a big surprise, was it? Like, I know they tried to lead in with the whole traveling for work thing and seeing if that was going to be a problem. And we have yet to see the reunion episode. So, like, that's when I think we'll actually get to see if that was a problem.
True.
But, yeah, I mean, they've been pretty consistent throughout this. So I would have been very shocked if they would have said no.
Exactly. Well, and the only thing I would see maybe eventually Austin getting annoyed of is that Jessica seems to be the kind of person that beats a dead horse sometimes. Like,
Not let that go.
No, when it comes, I love you, the traveling. Oh my gosh, like, please find something else to talk about.
Yeah. Although I like that he pushed. Well, he didn't push back, but he didn't fold instantly.
True.
Like he held his ground until he felt like it was okay. Until he felt it. Unlike some other people that we will get to later on, this pod who are basically jelly and weak and need to man up and have a backbone. But
okay, Pastor Cal.
What did Pastor Cal do?
That's the exact line that Pastor Cal uses for all the guys. He's like, you need to man up.
Oh, I thought you meant that Pastor Cal had to man up. I was like, what'd he do?
Oh, no. I'm not hanging on Pastor Cal.
I would never hate on Pastor Cal. So I guess, how should we start with them? Well, I guess we could first do episode 15, right? We did 15 and 16, where they had their major fight. Were you concerned that they were going to say no at any point during that episode? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that does bother me about them a little bit is I don't think their communication when they have disagreements is super effective. Like you said, she really holds on to, like, she's kind of like Mika in the way where she gets kind of laser focused on something and she just wants to keep working at it until it's not a problem anymore. And it's just like the same conversation over and over again. And I felt like, I don't know, at a certain point you have to kind of just accept that that's where it is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he travels for work. That's fine. Like, that's probably not forever. And it's probably like, it's just a situation you didn't anticipate. And I wonder if she's just one of those people who really needs to be like physically around people to feel connected to them. Where like that quality time is like a really, like kind of like a love language thing almost, where it's like the more time you spend together, the more bonded you feel. And that she talked about a little bit how if she's not around someone for a couple of days, then like when you're first back together again, it's a little awkward and it takes a minute to like kind of get settled. So I totally understand her concerns and where she's coming from. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think he's going to be leaving that job or changing his career or like, that's not going to change. Yeah. So it's just like, all right, now we know this is a problem that we're going to have to like face together. Yeah. So let's figure out how we're going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, luckily for them, COVID probably stopping him from traveling as much as he was.
Yeah. He's going to be around a whole lot.
Yes.
Right. I mean, rethink what you really asked for before.
Yeah. Yeah. That fight that they had was, I think overall, obviously they're an amazing couple. They're the only home run of the season, if we're being honest. So like they're great, but that fight was really concerning for me because just she didn't handle that the best. It was a lot of her pushing. Then he finally reacts, and then she just goes into, I can't believe that he's like, it just goes into straight. And I don't know if she just goes into like almost victim mode, which I'm not a big fan of. And I think this season we've seen that a lot we've seen that a lot where everyone, it just goes into, I am being persecuted right now because, for whatever reason. But I'm glad that they were able to kind of bounce back from that. My theory on them is he seems to have a kind of roll with the punches personality.
True.
Which is very good, because if he had I think she's a little bit more type A, and if they were both type A, I could see that being a problem. You could tell he like picks and chooses his battles. So he'll have a feeling, like when she wants to grab the watermelon or bring a crock pot to a vacation weekend.
The things of the season we remember.
Yeah, like stuff like that. He'll be like, okay, if that's what you want. And like, that's good. That's a good mentality to have. And I think she's a lot less likely to feel that way. But, as a pair, they kind of balance each other out with that. So happy with it. What do you think, Mabel? Mm-hmm. Were you worried?
I kind of had a hard time following some of her arguments sometimes because I felt like she's the kind of person that just wants her way and doesn't really work with adaptability well. For example, she was talking about, that I love you so much, and she wants I love you, and she wants him to say I love you. And her argument was, you wouldn't marry someone without saying I love you. And I'm like, you married someone you didn't even know. Wait, what?
Guess what? 10 people did.
10 people this season. And there have been 9 more.
Exactly.
And there are more to come. And there are 8 more to come out.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so I just heard in her kind of argument that, well, I'm going to win it no matter what cost, regardless of if you put yourself in the situation you and Austin are in right now.
Yeah.
You may need to adapt a little bit and realize that before you say, I want to marry someone, it's probably a little longer for some people. I mean, some people get married less than 2 months, but this season covered 2 months. You're probably going to take a little more than 2 months to date somebody. And hey, guess what? He said I love you at the end of it all. So
he caved.
Did he even have a choice? I was going to say, like,
No.
yeah.
I thought it was interesting when he met with his buddy and before the decision day, and he talked about this.
That buddy is
Like, he was
annoying,
like, yeah,
by the way. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I hated that
You didn't
buddy.
like him?
He's so... I hate him.
buddy.
Just...
Okay.
His entrance to the party was ridiculous. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to remember that. Was he the one that like came in with the beers and was just like, "I'm here now"?
I think I think he said, "There he is," or something like that. Like he was announcing himself, like he's like a royalty.
That's just probably a white people thing.
he is the life of the party. So we arrived.
Anyways, so they had their little beers on the terrace there, and he brought up this thing of she said I love you and I haven't said it yet, and it's a big word, and he says that all the time. Yeah. And I thought it was very interesting. He was like, I don't want to say it because I think that she's saying that she loves me and she feels this way because I'm nice. And I was like, oh, so you maybe don't feel like, at least where she is right now, that she could kind of know you fully enough to say I love you. And so it doesn't feel genuine or real. It's maybe kind of more of like a checkbox that's being, ticked.
Yeah.
And I think I could totally understand that, like being kind of careful around that word. And she has put so much weight and meaning into that. It's just like, you just gotta let those things happen in their own time, And I feel like for most things, the more you try to force it, the harder it becomes. Yeah. And if you can just kind of like go with the current and, see where it takes you, then you naturally are going to come across those things, and they're probably going to be a lot more meaningful because it's like in a moment that's really genuine and not like, okay, well, we've been together for 6 weeks at this point, and I feel this way, so I think I'm going to say I love you. And if he doesn't say it, then this is what that means. And if does this affect how I decision day? Like, it's just it's like you can't have checklists like that when it comes to relationships. It's so much more organic than that.
So, do you know, obviously you probably know, when you're planning the wedding, you have those books that tell you the checklist 1 year before the wedding, 6 months leading up to the wedding. Yeah. Like, that's what this is. It's like, okay, we are dating. Not really, because we're married. So 1 month into marriage.
Let's skip it.
Exactly. I think Dr. Viviana has been amazing, and continues to be one of my favorites.
I love her so much.
Yeah,
She's
like
great.
her conversation with Beth in the previous season, one of my favorites. Chef's kiss. But for the people who are listening, but I think she might have potentially made a mistake during their conversation where, like, she almost pushed in a very nice and not a, in a, she almost pushed Jessica to admit that she like to say it. And I think, and of course, obviously she felt that way, but you have to be willing, you have to be able to handle the other person not saying I do as well. And clearly she wasn't able to handle that. And if I as a layman could have seen that like from a mile away, I'm sure she as a professional saw that too. What's the point of like he's showing you that he loves you in his actions, you're showing him that you love him in your actions. What's the rush to say it anyway? You know, like I feel like it could have been something of even a bigger issue. So
I think that's Dr. Viviana's way of almost making her face that situation to be like, listen, if you feel this way, feel it and try not to make it create in a certain way by him having to be the person to say it first and then you can respond. Like it's something that as a part of you too, it's reality. Hey, you may love him before he loves you and that's fine. But approach that as a reality versus, oh, it's not supposed to be like this. It has to be that way.
And it's like such a narrow way of looking at it of like, if someone says, I love you, then it's not just what they're saying. It's also like, what's it like when you're spending time together? How do you feel with them? Like, what are the other things that they're saying to you? Like, are they, you know, doing things that are nice and thoughtful? And are they kind of thinking of you guys as a team and not just as just them? And are they, you know, putting forth initiative with, I don't know, getting to know your family or understanding what you do for your career better? Like all these other things, there's a billion of those other things that are also ways of showing and expressing love. And those are also the things that coincidentally build love. And so like to me, it's just so narrow-minded sounds really rude, but like, it's such a narrow way of looking at like what love is of like, good, we're in love now because we both said it. It's like, that does not make it a reality. Like it reminds me of all the like middle school
years, here we come.
Right. Like it makes me think of like all the middle school relationships that like friends or like classmates were in, and it was like we're boyfriend and girlfriend because they just like agreed to it in the hallway, but they never hang out. And like they held hands one time, but they're boyfriend and girlfriend now. And I'm like, okay, but only one part of this is actually the label. The rest of the substance is not there at all. But you're in middle school.
That was one of my best relationships for sure. It was good stuff.
I really wish you would stop talking about her.
Do you need counseling?
We're calling Dr. Viviana. She has yet to respond.
I like that dynamic of like, I'll talk to you when I talk to you, but we're still dating. It's nice. Like, I'll see you around.
This relationship works on my time. I wanted to say something about Dr. Viviana. Obviously, we all think she's great. I was doing a little bit of research on her, and it was really cool how she got into the show. So apparently, she reached out because she was already a fan of the show, and she's already like a professional for so many years before this. She just reached out and was like, hey, I want to get to know you all, and reached out to the producer and met the producer one-on-one. And I think I'd be a really good fit here. So I'd love to be on the show. Like basically
she made that for herself.
Exactly. She was like,
I love her.
I believe in myself and I'm going to go for it.
Go get it. Wow.
Exactly. I love it. So.
Also,
it's like us making this podcast. We're like, yeah, we're experts.
Oh yeah, we cool.
Also, she's like the best.
Our opinions.
She's the best dressed.
Let me take
judge.
the tape off my glasses.
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to cut out all of this, but it's all over the place. Shoot. Is there anything else that we kind of want to talk about with them?
Big things. Those are probably it. They said yes, they're happy. We want to wish them all the best. Sending good vibes to Justin.
Justin.
I'm so interested to hear like how the the time after production has stopped goes, like between the end of this and the reunion. I'm very anxious to see that, because for them, it's really just the travel thing that seems to be the outstanding issue, and that's really going to be the testing grounds for if they can deal with that or not. More specifically, if she can deal with it or not. But yeah, I mean, I feel like all along there's been kind of little to talk about for them, which is kind of boring TV, but great for their relationship. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's great.
Could you imagine how awkward she would make it if they agreed to stay together and he still didn't say I love you? Like, the car ride back, she'd be like, so why didn't you say it then, huh? You feel this way. We're staying married. Why don't you say it?
Yeah, it just puts. I just wish she would have been a little bit more chill about it. It's just like, obviously this dude really, really likes you. Maybe if he's not even at the big L word yet, then that's fine. But you guys are both committed to this thing. And so that means that you're going to be together for hopefully a very long time, and that is going to come up naturally. And so, like, just the pushing and bringing it up. And like, I've learned this lesson myself, that like, you can't, whatever your thing is, either accept it or you got to bounce. Like, because just bringing it up over and over doesn't solve it. It certainly does not.
Yeah. And imagine the setting of what he felt like. So if we replay for our listeners that either didn't see or don't remember the scene in which he did say it, they're sitting on the couch in decision day in front of the experts, or 3 experts, and the experts ask, yeah, and what was your big issue in the relationship? Jessica, you said I love you, and what did Austin say? Really?
Well, like,
that's
giggling.
Really gonna tee it up?
That's some bullshit.
Like giggling like school children. Like, oh, he's going to have to talk about it now.
But that's the thing, though, is it feels like we've talked about this, that like it seems like they're harder on the men in these different relationships. So it's almost like if the lady says, yeah, I love you, this is where I'm at, and the guy doesn't meet her there because he's not ready, then I wonder if it would have been the same situation if like he said I love you and she didn't yet. It would be like, well, man, give her some time. Like, we're still learning about each other and whatever. Like, it just felt like they were kind of like, hurry up and, you know, get to it, man. Like,
yeah.
And they had an awkward silence there. They just sat in silence like, so, Austin, I guess it's your turn to say something.
Yeah, I really wish Pastor Cow was a little bit more of an advocate for the guys on the show. I think that's why it feels that way. Is, you know, Dr. Viviana and Dr. Pepper do a great job of bringing the expertise, but also like a female's perspective to the situation. And Pastor Cow hypothetically would be the male's perspective, but sometimes he does bring that over, but he brings it over in a way of, well, you know, men are always dogs, or, oh, you know, men are like, it's almost like
it's like an oversimplified way of looking at that.
And like a negative way too, of like, you know why this person feels that way. Maybe you could explain it. Like, okay, maybe the person isn't doing the best, but if you could give some context, and, you know, it's like the difference between a villain that's just evil and crackling and has no motivation, and a villain that they have. What did I mispronounce?
Great analogy.
You said crackling.
Cackling?
Why are they crackling?
Like, what's that? Like the weird
cackling. There's no R.
Cackling.
Sorry, that was just really funny.
The laughter.
Oh, that's good. But then like another villain that's like has the like a Thanos, you know, where it's like, okay, you're bad, but I get why you want to do this. Like, just give me the motivation for the person acting that way. And I'm not going to, like, I don't think Zac is a better person, but at least I like knowing why he behaved the way he behaved, you know? So like, just, I kind of wish he would do a little better with that. But enough with them. Let's get to one of the interesting couples, Brandon and Taylor. So for episode 15, I don't think they were in the episode that much. I don't remember.
Because he refused to be recorded.
Exactly.
That's true. They just had
that weird like security cam footage, which is like weird.
Yeah, like, did they know that was there? Like, that's...
Yeah, well, all the
sure hope
couples
so.
every season have their places bugged, so they all know this when they're.
Mhm.
So that's why we saw in previous seasons, such as Beth and
That's
Jamie
true.
have their nasty arguments, almost went physical, and we saw that another previous season, Matt never came home for like 4 days,
Mhm.
And
so
we
like stuff
saw
like
Amber's whole
exactly.
breakdown. Oh my god.
Very
Mhm.
like sad breakdown in the living room, like calling her dad at like 2 o'clock in the morning, like stuff like that. Like we've seen this footage that they always have cameras on you, whether or not they're like the big cameras in your face or if they're like in the room.
Mhm.
But with Brandon and Taylor, that's the only way we got footage of them because
Mhm.
Brandon decided that he is no longer going to be on reality TV.
Yes. Yes.
After signing up for a reality TV show.
Okay, well,
Change my mind.
we'll get into them a little bit later. Let's paint this picture a little bit more, if that's okay with you
True.
guys.
Good point.
So we didn't see him much in episode 15. 16, Decision Day. We initially have Taylor talking, and she's kind of basically they're asking, like, do you think he's going to show up? How do you feel that he's not here? And she's starting to go into that, where lo and behold, you hear a,
Da-da-da.
"Hi guys, or well, how you doing?" And like he walks in,
Funny running into you here.
gosh, like awkwardly walks in and has his interaction with the experts, where his main complaint was that he was late. He was late to work twice. Can you believe that?
Sabotaging him actively.
They are.
They care a lot about his career.
So
There are 5 couples here, 10 individuals, but they really care about your career.
Oh yeah, you're special.
yeah. So then after that, after they have a little back and forth, he goes to the bathroom, and basically takes his sweet time, comes back, and Taylor makes her decision. So I guess.
And then?
And then they decided not to stay together.
Well, then he walked out.
Well, that's
Yeah,
his thing, though. Right?
That's his
Like,
thing.
like he's
Big
done that
surprise,
so
right?
often. So, questions. How did you feel about them? And were you surprised that she said no? I'll say that first. Ashley.
Yeah, I wasn't too surprised she said no. I was curious. I mean, just because we hadn't seen them spending a lot of time together, we didn't have a good read on where they were at. Like some of that security cam footage, it looked like they were mostly just, hanging out and watching TV together, but they seemed affectionate and like at least on like a good level where they were just kind of hanging out and sharing space. So that was like a little encouraging, but without really seeing like the full context of that, like it was hard to be like go from that to they're probably going to stay together. I think Brandon has shown us throughout this entire season that he looks out for Brandon first, and it doesn't matter if he is married to this really awesome person who like has made mistakes, yes, and she's not without her faults, but he just could not see them as a team, and he always looked out for himself first. So like with the issues with production and whether or not I mean we saw how things went at the retreat and how he was like locking himself in the van, and like you can't do that when someone else is your ride. Like you just can't.
Call an Uber.
You don't have the keys. Like you can't go anywhere, man. I think he's just shown us over and over that he's childish. He looks out for himself first, and Taylor could be the absolute perfect individual and it wouldn't be good enough because he can't handle stress in an effective way. And so I was very glad that Taylor seemed to really understand that and see that. And it was just like literally right after she was like, she kind of rounded it out with the whole context of like, I liked these things, but also these things were bad. Therefore, I think we should, get a divorce. And he just looked around and was like, I'm over it. And then he pieced out. Like that in itself is like exactly why he had so many problems. And they did the whole montage of him walking out and talking about how like he had signed up for this show to find his forever person and whatever. I'm just like, are you that naive that you thought you could walk into this situation and everyone was going to just cater to your needs? and that you didn't have to change or grow or challenge yourself in any way, that everyone around you was going to be looking out for Brandon. Like, that is not how the world works, dude. And it just blows my mind that he would sign up for this show if he had such problems with privacy. And I'll stop my rant there, but I'm just like, good riddance. Like, this dude has got some things to work on.
Yeah. It was really frustrating to see this, what we knew was coming, basically repeat itself, with Brandon wanting to act like a child, revert to this, I don't even know what way of handling, to even walking around the building while he's on his bathroom break saying, hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? To these, people he's walking around in. Exactly. You already showed up late, i.e. your biggest issue with the camera crew with you. You already showed up late to, your appointment to chat with these folks. And then a couple minutes in, you're like, I'm gonna use the bathroom. Like, oh my gosh, like, how disrespectful can you get, dude? And it's just so frustrating. I do also think that maybe Taylor is more of the kind of person that can't really, and we already talked about this throughout the season, she can't really, she just knows like what she can't deal with, basically. And that's maybe from the beginning she kind of recognized that in Brandon. And she's like, this is kind of where I draw the line of my effort in this, because I feel like towards the end we saw a little more from her, but I was also like, if you're super cuddly on the couch and relaxing watching TV when he's not around, like, where were more of these conversations throughout this entire time to try to make this work? And even at the end, you said you saw good things in him, and yes, and there's some good things or some bad things. I was just like, it's a little disheartening to, I think, only see part of each of these two people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny for Zac, the experts were asking him if they thought he was there for the right reason. And I mean, they could have asked that to Taylor too, honestly. Like, it didn't seem as if. So my theory on this, and this is just my theory, I've got no facts, this is all feelings right now, but I think she thought that this could be a way to build up her career and find her person. And I know I'm personally okay with people doing that, but I know some of the viewers wouldn't be fans of that. And we watched Love is Blind not too long, well, a while ago, but Lauren and Cameron are like the perfect example of, you can both build your image. They have each other. They seem to be very happy, but they also have a social media following. They have all these different things that they're doing. And I think they have spin-offs, and I'm seeing them on all these different talk shows. And I think that's what she wanted. That was her hope for joining this show. And unfortunately for her, Brandon is not a camera person. He just, you could tell very clearly, very quickly that wasn't going to be the thing. And I think once she realized that, then her head went into, okay, well, how can I salvage this? And she then went into all right, I'm going to play this up for drama. But I can't do it too hard because then he'll leave. I think a great example of that was when she had she was yelling at him and very angry at the retreat. He goes to he gets angry, goes to the bathroom, is trying to leave. And then all of a sudden she locks herself in there, essentially to tell him not to leave because she wanted them to stay there longer. Like, it felt like she wanted camera time, And she just didn't get that. And doesn't look great either. Like, I think in the beginning, it's funny, I was doing the editing, and the first 2 episodes, we thought she was amazing. Like, I know, like, we had all these positive things to say. Like, she was the full package, she was beauty and brains, like they gave her the title. Like, it seemed like, to go from that to now, anything she says, I immediately start thinking, okay, well, how's this going to help her career? And I feel I just, that's so unfortunate because I don't know if that's fair, but once you have that in your mind, it's hard to let that go. And I've seen some interesting, like Brandon has thrown out some interesting things. Like he claims that she cheated on him and only stayed with him because she wanted camera time and all these different types of things where, like, of course he's just an angry, bitter ex, but I could kind of see it being true. Like, why were they cuddling? Why would they, if you knew you didn't want to be with him, why were you even stringing him along? Like, did you think you needed him for more camera time? Because at that point, you could tell she was checked out. So why were they still meeting each other? I'm so unsure. I'm so unsure.
Yeah. And like, I get that theory, and I get that for some people, kind of seeing her as maybe somebody who went through this experience to, like your theory of doing it to find her person and also kind of benefit her career since she's kind of in that world. I can understand that, but I feel like if you're going to do that, this isn't an appropriate show to do it, because the person, it's not like you're going on to a general reality show where it's like, oh, you might find somebody there that you're going to like pursue a relationship with. Like it's kind of variable and it's not really set. Like you're being set up with somebody who has decided that they want to get married. And so they're not consenting in any way to like them being your partner to do that. You're making a lot of assumptions that that's what they're looking for too, or that you're going to get matched with somebody like that. And of course, you're not going to explicitly say that when you're going through the whole process of being vetted and, you know, saying what you're looking for. So you have to kind of navigate that part of it. So you can't be truly transparent. And then the other person, and I think this is what we saw play out, like the other person is just not game for that. Like they were looking just for their partner. They didn't necessarily want this to be a place that their career goes. Right. And so that's like, you're really taking a big chance. And you're also like, that's a really messed up thing to do to somebody you don't even know yet and who's taking a chance on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if some of these thoughts, though, really cross someone's mind, though, because this takes a lot of just patience and flexibility and just really self-awareness to know this is what you want. This is going to be right for you. You're willing to see it through. And yeah, the experts try to see through that as much as possible. But the only person who can really see the reality is yourself, right? Like you can know what you're truly in this for. And I'm not really sure that everybody always knows that about themselves until they're already into it. And I would argue to say that Brandon, for example, definitely didn't know that about himself until afterward.
For sure.
And if you go back, he wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
I would even say Taylor too, though. Like maybe this was more of, at first, definitely. She wanted love. She wanted to have that forever person. She wants to get married. And hey, in her mind, she probably saw it as, I am totally okay in front of a camera. It does not bother me. I don't care if I'm going to be on reality TV. This is just another way I can get to know possibly somebody outside of, you know, online dating, speed dating, that kind of thing. This is another way I can possibly find my person. And I'm totally fine if it's on reality TV. Maybe later on, as we saw her come through in the show, we can kind of see that percentage shift a little bit by, I don't know if she 100% could have seen that coming beforehand.
Yeah. But like, here's the thing. If you want to find a partner that's okay with being in front of the cameras, wouldn't the reality TV show be the best place to find that?
True.
You know, and like this person, by even showing up, is at least considering being in front of cameras. Now, whether they're ready, that you don't know. And then also, it's a show about finding a partner, right? Like it's not like other reality shows where it's about dating or things like that. Like this is specifically for finding a, you know, husband or a wife. So a life partner. So I get the calculations if that is what she was thinking. Like I understand where you would think that. And I understand like he is also in sales, right? Like the more publicity he gets, the better it is for his job. the same for her, right? So I get why, like, it's one of those things where it's like everything, it's well thought out. It's just
Well, I
the
think
execution wasn't there, But like, if she had a great person to go with, I think we'd be seeing a different side of her. Like, she is from episodes 1 and 2, she was fun, she was bubbly, she was smart. Like, there's a lot of good there. It's just we didn't get to see that because it was constantly Brandon's acting out, Brandon having problems with production. And I think, unfortunately, like I saw this in a comment. So after the decision day and all the couples meet up, Brandon was actually there. They just cut him out completely. Like, one of the reviewers noticed that, like, when they go to cheers, you see another hand there, and that was Brandon's
oh,
hand.
really?
Yeah.
Dang.
So, like, now you're not only do you want, so for her situation, she wants camera time. She wants to build up her career. The crew hates your person, right? So, like, now they're like actively doing everything and I don't blame them. Like, he was a complete dick to them, and like, I'm going to international travel to follow you around, make my job easy. Like, I don't blame anybody on the crew. I probably would have reacted the same way. So this is no indictment on them. But for her, like, if this was the main reason you're on this show, to get attention, and you're not even going to get that because they're going to give you as little camera time as possible because they don't like your partner. I feel so bad for her. And I'm sure she's going to be fine. Like, her DMs are going to be popping after this show, but it's,
Yeah.
And he also, go ahead.
Sorry. I think what you said earlier, Mabel, about like that self-awareness part, I think that's really the key here, because I think we see this in some of the other folks from this group where it doesn't seem like Brandon fully knows himself and or fully accepts himself.
Yeah.
And it feels like he's kind of playing the role he thinks he's supposed to, where if he's a really private person, like, my guess is he's probably a little bit more on the introverted side.
Yeah.
Like, having the type of job where you're at a lot of social functions and you're always meeting new people and you're in those types of environments, it's hard for me to imagine that that's like something he really loves to do. It feels like so much of him is crafted around just this image that he's this kind of box he's trying to fit in. And I think that it kind of had this ripple effect into him being selected for Taylor, and how all the rest of this, really played out.
Yeah.
And, we're going to talk about Mika and Michael a little bit later. And like, I think that's part of the thing with Michael too, where he just doesn't fully know or embrace himself. And it has all these effects in our lives that you don't realize until you're like, oh, I'm not being myself. Like, I'm not comfortable being myself. Why not? And, that's a lot to unpack. And so I just feel like he wasn't anywhere near being ready for this experience to begin with.
Yeah.
One thing, I had a question I wanted to ask you too, but before I say that real quick, one thing I noticed after you said that ago about him not being in the video is that he could have also opted into that to say, listen, I already took my camera or my mic off how many times while I've been filming. Don't put another mic on me when I'm in this.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
With other people.
And they had no choice.
And the crew was probably like, I'm fine with that. We don't like you anyways.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, totally.
I wanted to ask you too, though, as well, because we're seeing that throughout filming, more characters come out, right? And what do you think would help for each individual, for the experts to kind of get that self-awareness and maybe avoid some of these pitfalls? If we could give advice to people before next season.
So, like, finding people who are comfortable being in front of camera, you mean, or like
finding more people that are consistent from their interview onto the 8 weeks afterwards.
So I've seen a lot of comments about this, and people are really angry, and rightly so, of like, especially Michael and Mika. But I think, honestly, that's just part of dating. Like, what the person tells you when you're first dating or on their profile, or like, like if any generation understands that you can't take what the other person is saying early on in dating, it's our generation, right? Like with online dating and all this type of stuff, you kind of have to discover the person, and it's unfortunate. It shouldn't be that way, but
You can't meet everybody online in person. What?
I just, there's a lot of people who are like, I'm 6'2" on their profile, and then you see them, you're like, you're barely 5'9". Like, what happened? Or like I've seen some
different shoes today.
I've seen some like crazy like articles about people photoshopping their heads on different bodies and using that as their profile. Like, there's a lot, So like, or like the Mika, like I am with Mika and Michael. She kind of said it. I think I was matched with who he said he was, not who he actually is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's with Brandon and Taylor too. I think the way he comes across in short sprints is different than when he's like under pressure. So I don't really blame the show. I mean, I guess maybe you could record them beforehand for like a few days before selecting them, but they have so many contestants. That's how many people are you going to record beforehand?
True. I just feel like people are going to always be on their best behavior, especially in the earlier days of recording. Mm. And so you're not going to necessarily I apologize, there's a dog licking his leg behind me. I feel like people are just going to be always presenting their best self. Like I think of it like a job interview where, you're going to be talking about all of the best projects you've been on, all your accomplishments, all your different experience. And of course, you're not going to be like, yeah, and I'm also kind of an asshole, like, or I'm late all the time. Like, you're never going to, like, divulge those things. It's going to be like, well, what are your weaknesses? Like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. Like, it's that kind of BS where it's like, no matter how self-aware you are, you're never going to be like, yeah, straight up, this is a thing that sucks about me. Like, okay. So I think what I would do is try to devise some, like, way to see how people handle stress, where it's like, I think I made a joke about this on a past recording, but I was like, put them all in a room and tell them you're going to start in 5 minutes, and you actually start in 45 minutes, and it's like just a little bit too hot, and like it's lunchtime and everyone's a little bit on it.
Is this legal?
Like, I'm saying like in like the human rights situation. But like just something to just see how flexible people are. So like, not only do you see like how committed they are to the process, but you also see how they react when they're put under pressure, how they treat the people around them, and that kind of thing. Or like have them do like those like stupid like team building exercises where it's like an impossible task, so that you're not really going to accomplish it, but you have to work together. Like, those are ways of seeing how people deal with that stuff. You might see somebody who's shutting down and they're not really trying anymore. And you might see one person who's just like barking orders at everybody else. Then another person who's fighting back at that person. Like, that's where we start to see a little bit more of how those things play out. And I think that would be really helpful. And I think that... Would you stop me?
Is that Pin?
Having a fun time back there. So I think just the more you can like naturally have those situations and kind of see people in that environment, that would just help get a fuller understanding of them, where they don't actually realize they're being kind of evaluated on those things.
Yeah. What do you think, Mabel?
I think, one, you definitely need more people. This cannot be a one-to-one interview where you only meet the candidate and that person decides, I'm the right fit to get married because of X, Y, Z. Like, that's only one side of the story. I was thinking, so after the wedding, they always have that brunch after with the family or close friends. Like, not everybody is close with their family. If there was something like that in the social setting, to be like, hey, we just want to, and this can be the final 10 contestants, don't have to be like all 100,000 that apply. But like,
everyone.
You can need a camera for you. Yeah. No. If this were something, the final 10 contestants, the ones that get the Dr. Pepper home visit, right? Let them be, whether it's filmed in their everyday life for, I don't know, a few days, get, these brunches with their friends and family the next day.
Mhm.
It'd be great if people who are going, like these finalists, like all the 10 guys and 10 girls, to be together, like have a one massive kind of brunch or something like that with the 10 final contestants, and they can bring like one person if they want to, kind of thing. Like different social settings, so the people who are perfect at putting on their best self in 3 hours, like, okay, maybe they put it on their best ready, go. Like if they're, putting on their best self in the first brunch with their family, okay, like by the second, third, different interaction or day of filming following, you're probably going to get to see what's consistent and what's not.
Although I just realized there's a premise in this, because I totally agree, which is really good before I go into it. Like I think that could help, just being around them more. It's just going to show you more of their actual personality. So I totally agree with you there, but we're kind of going off the premise, like it's not just people who are mentally mature who deserve love, right? Like everybody deserves a chance at it. So I don't know if that's even fair to say, hey, we have to have people who are well adjusted, who are perfect in many ways. Like not everybody can be a Mindy, like so. So I guess that's another problem where, like even our perfect couples, Jessica and Austin, there are things that they could do better. Like I don't know. Maybe it's this season in particular because so many of the couples were having problems. It felt like the vetting wasn't the best, but to play devil's advocate, like everybody deserves a shot at this. And if they applied, they are saying that they're willing to deal with this situation, right? Like we're not forcing people to apply. If you apply, Pastor Cal kind of said it. He's like, this is a reality TV show. You apply to go on a reality TV show.
True.
Don't get mad.
And extroverts are always going to look like when you get a social setting, it's going to be easier for an extrovert to socialize everybody else than an introvert too. Right. So it's like no easy way to really know the people.
Yeah. I did want to say I kind of wanted to talk about Brandon a little bit in particular, where he frustrated me for the many reasons that everyone else is frustrated. But the fact that he was so antagonistic on production, it's stupid to me. Like these are the people who are recording you. They're the ones who are going to edit. They're the ones who are going to decide how you look on national television. Do you really want to get on their bad side?
It's pretty short-sighted.
They're the waiter that might spit in your food.
Exactly. Or like,
I'm surprised you got COVID-19.
That's too soon. I think it's a little too soon for that show.
Soon. That's funny.
We might cut that one. But like, it's so short-sighted. And then for him to then be angry that they're not treating him the best way. It's like, you made them your enemy. What did you expect? Like, it's ridiculous. It reminds me of, my mom's in management for her company. And every once in a while there's a lot of people there. And every once in a while there'll be a person who comes in and cusses everyone out and gives their piece of their mind. And that's fine. Like, if you're going to do that, okay. But then don't be surprised when other people at the job don't like you. Like, you have the right to say how you feel, and they have the right to react.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about Brandon is I feel like he was probably that kid when he was like being babysat, where he was just a complete asshole to the babysitter for no reason because he was like mad at his parents or something. Where he was like, I want macaroni and cheese, and he like slams it across the room. They're just like, why are you punishing me? And like that's the way he's treating the production crew, where it's like they have nothing to do with the reason that he's stressed out. They are literally just doing their jobs, and he is making it he is just directing all of his anger at the
Yeah.
situation, his frustration, in the completely wrong direction. Instead of just dealing with it, it's just like, no, it's your fault, and off we go. So it's
Yeah.
just, I mean, not a huge shocker that Taylor doesn't want to stay with this man. I mean, he's over it. So I guess we'll see in the reunion episode how that goes for them, because I'm sure some stuff will come out
What
between,
what NBA player are we going? Like which NBA player is going out with Taylor next?
for Taylor.
Yeah. We've got some great
mean-
choices here. I don't know. Oh,
I don't know.
I'll try to think of one next time we record. I can get a good
We'll make
list.
On the reunion episode, which NBA player?
I'll make some calls. All right. So next we got to talk Mika and Michael. So the first thing I want to talk about is before decision day, when they're like on their way back from the couples retreat, and they both are pretty disappointed with how things went. Michael had to leave because he was working on some arrangements for his uncle's funeral and had to, came back again. And there was just a lot of just not great communication between them, or she wasn't really sure when he was coming and going, and he didn't seem to feel super supported by her emotionally in this really hard time. And so they're driving back, and then they stop at was it an apple orchard to do their little date, and they were gonna talk about stuff. And first of all, I was like, who picked this date? Because they are out there. They're clearly really hot. There's bugs just flying around their faces. They're sitting out in the sun and picking fruit and trying to with the best person in the world. That's going to be a frustrating situation. That's putting them in a pressure cooker, and they're already frustrated with each other. I was just like, why did you do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to get your thoughts on how you felt like that went, and that the whole thing with him picking the lunch and he gave her the other one without asking what she wanted. What happened?
That hayride was so awkward.
They're social distancing before you got to it. Look.
They're not messing around. They're trying to be safe.
Even before we knew about COVID, premonition. I just thought it was so awkward, and they just made it over the, I wouldn't say they, I'd say Michael, made it over the top. Why are you playing, hostile and I'm mad at you, I don't know, and talk to you. Around, it's just, and you also, mind you, kept saying, I'm in this, I'm trying, I'm doing my best. No, you're not, dude. No one cares if you really don't just please be upfront and honest. You don't want to be in this anymore. You're over it. You are annoyed in her presence. You want to leave. We all know it. Why are you forcing yourself to go on these apple picking activities and have lunch with her, and you won't even sit down on the dang blanket? What are you doing? You are visibly irritated being in her presence. What are you doing?
He was clearly more excited about the pudding in his lunch bag than he was spending time with his wife.
The dang pudding.
But also maybe fix your broken marriage.
Score.
This is really good pudding. He kept going into the I'm pretty sure you got all the pudding out of the cup.
That's some good pudding.
Down.
That's some good pudding. What if he didn't actually like pudding? He's lying about liking pudding. That, going with.
He was like, I just need something to fill the silence.
Anything to not talk to Mika. That was just so awkward.
Yeah. What a train wreck. Weirdly, I think he was, not that scene, but the scene afterwards, he seemed to be trying more and putting more of an effort. And they even had a few scenes of them smiling awkwardly at each other. It's just, they're so bad. Even when they're having good moments, I'm like, ugh, this isn't what you guys do.
It's worse somehow.
It's like that one person who doesn't smile, and then you're like, oh, that's weird. You never smile. Then when they do, you're like, oh, that's why you don't smile. Your teeth are awful.
Oh, that's so sad.
Ugh.
Oh no!
You got a bunch of pop rocks in your mouth there. It's disgusting. Yeah, they just, I think weirdly, because they're so hardworking, this thing has been done for weeks, but because they're so adamant and so hardworking and so persistent, they're still they tried through this just stupid excuse of a of a marriage here.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
I feel like they just keep trying to work on it, but it's like I don't know if this is too morose of a comparison, but it feels like it's like their marriage is on life support and like they're not there anymore, but they're like they don't believe in pulling the plug. We can cut that out.
No, I'm kidding.
I can't think of an analogy that's lighter than that.
I'm kidding.
But it's just kind of like it's so rigid in that thinking of like they both said that they don't really feel divorce is an option.
Yeah.
Well, it's like that cartoon that it's like those digging a hole. Like you think that somehow you get out of the hole if you keep digging and you keep digging and you keep digging.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, just wait a second. Like if you actually look to your left or look to your right, there's a ladder. Look up, you can get out of the hole.
Yeah.
But somehow you think that you can find your way out of this if you just keep doing the same wrong habit you're already doing.
Yeah. Focus. Like that's not working so far. So I think like when they were kind of doing their contemplation about if they wanted to stay in the marriage or leave, all that kind of a thing, like even though they were both saying divorce doesn't feel like an option, I was like, I'm curious for both of them what they would say, like, why would you stay? Like, what are the good reasons that you want to stay? Because if it's only that this relationship has potential or we were matched by experts or, you know, we've been through a lot together, like that's not anything good about the relationship. It's just where it could be. Like just because you're paired with someone and like you're legally married, like the relationship itself, like what is good about it? And I couldn't think of anything. Like they have these brief moments where they're a little bit more lighthearted and they joke around a little bit, but like those are few and far between and they feel a little painful even in themselves. Like, yeah.
Like even at their best, it felt, I was like, there's no joy in this. It feels like she's lecturing him and he feels like he's on a job interview every time they talk. Like it's just, oh my goodness. I just also, well, I'm sure we can get to decision day a little later because the way he talked, you could tell he rehearsed what he was going to say. Yes. He kept on saying like, it's the mirage of my life. I'm like, who talks like that? What do you, sorry, the mosaic, that is my life. I'm like, what? Okay. This is clearly pre-written. I did, to go back to that episode 15, I did like their conversation where he was basically kind of saying, he finally spit out why he was being so awkward and weird during the date. He was saying, you know, a person in my family passed and I didn't feel sympathy from you. And I thought they actually addressed that pretty well. Like he laid out his case and like, you know, like I understood what his problem, you know, like if that happens, you want your person to comfort you and be there. And her answers of like, yeah, I understand things happen, but I think our stuff is very important too or something. It's like,
yeah, she acted like their relationship problems were the priority over him, like going through the loss of a family member.
Yeah.
Right. When it's a relationship, like you're with the whole person, not just, you know, you start to itemize and rank things such as we're more important than your family member dying. Like, wait a second. Yeah. Like if this is really your partner, you're going through these things together, you can care about the relationship and be there for your partner when their uncle dies. Yeah. Like it's
and like I remember, I think it was last podcast, Ashley, like you made a great point about Keith and Iris, where they like that brought them together more. Like her being there, her, you know, she was there with the family. She, like, you could tell she cared, and he in turn obviously felt that. Like, ironically, if she was more sympathetic and more understanding, I think that could have helped bring them together. But like, you know, obviously it was not happening regardless. So you know, It is.
And I think
Sorry.
maybe for like them, I just have a theme like for these couple of theme of self-awareness today, but with Mika and Michael, both of them kept saying things to the other person that's like, you need to fix this, and this is your problem.
Mhm.
And I mean, maybe I can kind of consider a little bit what I do. Like,
Yeah.
like Michael, he was saying, yeah, that's something I can do a little. And a lot though was more so like, these are things you need to do. You need to help me feel comfortable. You have habits you can't take into the marriage. You have issues. Same with Mika, very much. You have these issues. You're lying. You have practices. Like, I can't trust you because of things you're doing. And I don't feel like either person enough was like, what can I do differently that, hey, maybe for previous relationships this worked and I thought this was the way to do it, but clearly with you it's not. So what can I do differently? And how is that going to help us be better? And like, I just really was missing a lot of that between both of them to have that more self-awareness.
Yeah, it's like they weren't willing to give or like shift at all, but they expected the other person to do that for them. Where it's just like, it wasn't, what can I do for you to make you feel more comfortable? But like, you need to start being more vulnerable. Like, how, in what world does that work? Like, hey, be vulnerable with me right now. Like, you create the conditions for that. You can't command someone to do that.
Yeah. Mika is another person who, I think the situation, I imagine it was her with another partner, we would see a completely different side of her. And I'm only doing this based off of her interactions with Taylor. Like, she seems fun. She's very perceptive when it's other people's relationships. Like, she made some great points. Yeah, aren't we all? But she made some great points, and she was, you can tell she's very analytical and just a clear thinker. It's just, she lacks the warmth, unfortunately. And that's fine, if that's not your thing. I think you kind of have to have a partner who will bring that. But it just felt cold the entire time. And I understand her hesitation. Like, once you think everything your partner is saying is a lie, it's hard to listen to anything they say. So I get it. Yeah, I guess if you don't mind, we could kind of go to decision day, because she was getting dressed for the next person. Like, she was like, I need to look good for whoever I'm going to talk to next. Like, that's what this felt like.
Wow.
Dang.
I
put too much effort in.
She was doing that.
I liked her hair though. Her hair was nice. Like, it was a good.
I really couldn't stop talking about how cute she looked. She was just like, not cute is the wrong word. This dog will not stop crying.
I could give him like a licky mat or something to keep him.
Yeah, I'll just pet him. So she like really got dressed up. I just thought she looked really great and really like sure of herself. And I think we kind of saw that in like Mindy later, where she was just like, you could tell she was like put together, and she was just like, no, I made my decision, like I'm okay with it, and able to kind of turn that corner. And it was kind of heartbreaking to hear her first say that she didn't want to stay together, and that he followed it up with, I don't believe in divorce. And it was just like, oh, if only they could have just led with him and just, I don't know, like just done it differently. It was just, I know these conversations are going to be rough no matter what, because it's like everybody in the room, everybody in the world is watching. But it felt really, really hard, like harder than usual for these conversations.
Yeah. I wish there was a way to see this with, like, for example, Brandon and Taylor. I wonder if he was going to say yes. Like, I know, like, there's no way to, I guess you could ask them to both write down their answer on a piece of paper, but that seems unnecessary. But yeah, with Mika and Michael, from his reaction, it definitely felt like he was going to say yes. And
he said he doesn't believe in divorce. He was going to keep going.
I mean, I had a tough time with that though, because like, then to that I would say, So what is your final line, right, to say this is not going to work?
Yeah.
Because if you play back to the, episode 15 again, Mika was the one who's trying and engaging and talking and wanting to see where this goes. Michael's like, psh, I mean, I technically married you, so I gotta stay here with you. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't really understand when, and to me, I saw Michael saying that as a way of playing to the camera and playing into the show and being like,
really?
I'm signed up to be married, and so I don't believe in divorce, and so I want to see this through.
Oh.
I was saying that for his actions, it doesn't really show that he is in this marriage, but he wants to say things like, I don't believe in divorce and I want to see this through. But then where are you actually going to try to make this marriage work if right now it's only substantiated in the words you say?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I think we've seen that from both of them, where it's a lot of talk and not a lot of actions. Where it's like they both have been doing that quite a lot. Where it's like, oh, I want to fight for this marriage. I don't believe in divorce. I want you to be able to feel vulnerable with me. I want you to be honest, and all these different things. And everything is just a heavy, hard discussion. Them sitting on the couch, 50 feet apart, him drinking something every 3 seconds and they're talking about like what they need from each other, and then they like kind of awkwardly come to an agreement, and then that seems to be it. But we don't see them doing the things of like, hey, let's like have a meal together, let's go somewhere, let's try a new activity, let's do like you can't like just move a relationship forward from your like intense couch conversations, and like that's a part of the relationship. It is, but that cannot be the only part of the relationship.
Yeah. It's a fun thought experiment of if they didn't have, because the thing that started all this, right, is the whole conversation they had on the flight to their honeymoon. I wonder how things would be different in some parallel universe where they never had that conversation. Like, would they be fine? Because that, like that's the thing that solidified in her head that he's a liar, because she's convinced he said that to her and he kept on saying, I did not say that. So that was the thing that, like, once she had that in her head, she was scanning for other lies. And he helped. He kept on giving her more lies to find. But like, she was in that headspace of, he is a liar. I now need to get evidence to prove that. And as opposed to just, I'm going to discover this new person that I'm married to. I wonder how things would be if, I guess I should just ask that as a question. Do you think they would have been able to make it if they never had that conversation on the flight, Mabel?
Make it is a hard way to put it. So he gives me the vibe of being that kind of person in a relationship that he won't end it. He's going to force you to end it.
Yeah.
Because he is going to save face and come across as, I'm working on this, when behind closed doors, he's really not.
Yeah.
But, to get back to your point of if this would have worked, I also still think it wouldn't have worked, because in the end of it, I mean, your truth is going to come out, right? Like you are who you are, and just give it a matter of time. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, if it's today or tomorrow, you'll know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think if it wasn't that conversation, and it's unfortunate it was so early in their relationship, I think it would have been something else. Like it seems like he was kind of in the middle of a job transition when the filming started. And so it would have been something with his job that would have still happened, even if they didn't have the whole, conversation about expectations about the honeymoon and all that stuff. It would have still been like, another issue is that it seems like they're just both people who take a minute to warm up to each other in like this specific, where they're in a relationship suddenly and they're strangers. And like that part of it, I think would still be an issue, where it's like, it's hard to relax and be yourself, because it's just like, this is a marriage. And there was like this immediate formality that they both had with it of just like, we have to make this work. And like, we're going to have children in this amount of time. And like, they had all these really like serious formal conversations early. And I think that would have happened regardless. So no, I don't think that it would have made much of a difference.
I think this is something like, and a small example of like, couples right now in COVID, what they're facing. Some maybe need it, like you have couples that are living together now 24/7, quarantined together, can't go outside, et cetera, et cetera. For some, it took that to be like, this wasn't going to work. For some, thankfully, they were able to build a foundation together to now say, oh, thankfully, we were able to build slowly and grow stronger, and now we can handle COVID together. Or others knew it all along. It just took COVID to finally say, listen, like you knew this was a problem, and being in each other's face only magnified that problem. So like, yes, for some, you may be able to change the narrative and make it work.
Right.
But for some, you just can't. And for Mika and Michael, it seems like they just can't.
For some couples, they're having babies because, you know, a lot of babies are being conceived right now in this pandemic.
What do you think, though, Agu? Do you think narrative would have changed for them?
I think you kind of agree. I feel like I say this all the time, but I agree with your point. I think once he had that job change, like you can tell she's a person who needs that security in her life. And the moment he switched jobs, that would have been it for her. She's like, oh, wait, what? Like he's had 3 jobs in the 8 weeks that he's been on this show. And you know that she's a person who finds that she needs that stability. That's not stable, you know. And I don't think that's on him, but unfortunately,
it seems like the timing was unfortunate with that.
Yeah, and then like we don't really know what happened because you can't really take what he says, because that seems a bit odd that you were offered a promotion, but then you end up leaving to go to another place, and then you leave that place because they promised things that they didn't do. Like what? So it more feels like he lied on his resume than he got there and they found out that he lied on his resume.
Yeah, I mean, this would play out into your work life too, right? Like,
oh, he's definitely lied on his resume. I mean, like he even said it on the decision days, like things that you have to do to get to your position, and it served me well at certain points. I'm like, oh, okay.
So last thing on my list is I just want to make a montage of him drinking things. Like every
that or like his weird eye thing. He'd be like just.
I was looking them up a little bit, and like it came up with this list of different behaviors that people do when they're lying, and it was like not making eye contact, looking down, leaning back, touching the face, covering the mouth, and he does this stuff all the time.
All of it.
He's talking, and it's like, yikes, man! It's not even good lying.
That's the thing that angered me more with him. It's like, yo, if you're gonna lie, but don't be stupid about it. Like I feel the same way about criminals. It's like if you're gonna do the crime, don't get caught. Like do it in a way that you're not going to get caught. Like just his lies were so small and pointless and unnecessary. Like
seriously.
Yeah.
He really does have to work on that. Like you can tell it's a behavior. It's like trait of his, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's not even doing what you think it's doing.
No.
Like it reminds me of like any time I've ever worn Spanx. I'm like, everybody knows what your body looks like, girl. Like having this thing is maybe gonna make you look a little different, but it's like my body's what it is. That's okay. Or it's like it's not doing what you think it's doing for you, and it's okay just to be whoever you are.
Yeah,
I think there could be a really useful prep course for everybody. On the show and not on the show. Be who you are, please, for the sanity of everyone, of all the people on the show and off the show. Let's have some just basic discussions on
just life.
Life,
self-acceptance, self-love.
Exactly.
Or just lie better. Or just lie better, honestly. Like, that's my thing. Like, if you're going to lie, just do better. That's it. Like,
you need to give them that list that Ashley was talking about of tells and be like, don't do these.
I forget.
Become a better liar. That's the takeaway from this for Goo.
Katie and Derek. Let's get into them. Where do I even begin? At first, they definitely both want to be committed to this relationship. They're trying, they're communicating, they're there for one another for the most part. And then Katie gets into saying these, don't be upset if this doesn't work out. If this doesn't work out, it's only to make us both happy. And also asking, what do you think I'm going to say? Like, okay, when are you going to tell him you already decided? Like, it's the comments that she's saying clearly was like, I mean, I thought it was clear, was like, I don't want this. And then decision day, she decides to keep going and wants this relationship to work out. Like, whoa, 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 180 from the person we just saw walking down the dock with Derek and putting a love lock on the chain together. What? Where are you trying to lead us down this road relationship with you two? What do you two think?
She was clearly trying to keep her options open at that point. Like, she didn't want to feel like she had made some false promises. Like, and it seems like right up until the moment that she said her decision, she was on the fence almost. True. Where I was like, I don't know. I still stand by my earlier diagnosis that I think she just doesn't respect him, and that she is somebody who needs to be with someone a little bit more mature. This whole man-child thing is just the big issue. And so I think she's thinking, can I deal with this long term? Can I grow this, what she's calling a friendship? It's like, girl, you're not in a friendship. Like, you're clearly still like attracted to each other. You still have these moments where, like, even if they don't maybe realize it, they're communicating to us that, like, you're kind of in this together. You have your connection. Like, you're not as distant from each other as you might think you are. It's that you have to accept who the other person is. And if you can't, that's okay. But you have to be honest about that. Because I never would have thought at this point I would be defending Derek, but he could do
Whoa, tables turn.
Yeah. Like, she's disrespecting him. She's like walking all over him. She's like, there's a way to give feedback where it's constructive and it's coming from a place of respect. She doesn't do that at all. She just like lets go with whatever's on her mind, and she'll use like the harshest terms. And it's just like that to me. It's all the signals that I'm like, you don't respect this man, but she knows enough that like she's a little bit out of line, where I think she's like, okay, I'm gonna not call it yet, at least. But I was just like, it was really, really hard to watch them.
Tell us how I feel, Goo.
Like, I'm very happy that, so normally we will like watch some of the episode before we record. Like, we'll time it that we're kind of just finishing up watching the show and then we start talking. And I'm very happy that we weren't able to do that for this recording, because I was so frustrated. That they stayed together. Oh my goodness. But before I go into that, like, we can't brush over episode 15. We gotta give this some juice. I have never seen someone like that. Was her setting him up for, hey, I'm going to say no, just so you know. Like, it was clear. That was it, you know? Like, it was like, oh, you know, I think we have more of a friendship vibe. Or, well, you know, I think we really tried. Or when they were putting the locket and she refused to, I forget what his wish was, but she refused to say that.
To be a team or something forever.
Exactly. And she's like, I can't promise that.
Yeah, she's like, no, let's go with to make each other happy.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, and then she goes and says the thing she's thinking inside out loud. And she's like, well, because, you know, we can make each other happy, but maybe that means with other people. Like, it was, exactly. She's just like kicking this guy left and right. And he's like he just keeps on taking it and no reaction. He's just getting beat up. It's just, it felt like that meme with Rocky where like, he's already down. Stop swinging. He's already dead. Like, she's just throwing more jabs at him. And he keeps on, like, coming back like a hurt puppy or something. It just... okay, so...
yeah. Seriously.
So there's that, right? And I was very angry and very frustrated by that. And to go into decision day... I think I really, really, really wish they asked her first. I think they made a mistake in this. And there's no way that I think that if they asked her first, she would have said no. She said yes because he said yes. And he was very sweet And that wasn't like, it felt like she made that decision right then and there.
Hmm.
And this is a clear case, in my opinion, of a person who she wants to go with her ex. That's what this is. She's looking for excuses to be okay with going with her ex. And you can tell with her conversations with her parents, with her conversations with everybody, she doesn't feel that way with Derek. And it's similar to Zac and Mindy, where if you're not feeling the person, okay, but don't string them along. Like this reminds this reminds me of Married at First Sight, and not Married at First Sight, Love Is Blind. With
I was like, talking about this?
we're
It
talking,
reminds me of the top right now.
well, of course it reminds you of it. But like it reminds me of Love Is Blind with Jessica and Mark, where she kept on stringing this guy along because
Her second choice.
because exactly, but the person that she did want, she was stringing him along as just backup as she pursued the person she actually wanted. That's what this is. Like she wants to be with the ex, and she's just stringing Derek along. And at least Jessica from Love Is Blind was able to let him go and be like, all right, this is not going to work out. I'm going to set you free. Go to the wild. And Derek and Katie, she's not even doing that. Like this fucking idiot is still out here thinking, oh, I gotta make this work. I don't want to say. It's so mad. It's so mad. And the worst part is,
Yagu literally has his head in his hands.
and I think the worst part now is whatever happens to him, you did this to yourself now. Like she's going to continue to treat you like shit. She's going to continue to disrespect you and not, and you did this to yourself. You had the out. You had the out and you refused to take it. So whatever happens, that's on you now. That's on you, Derek.
So, something I wanted to note though, I don't think Derek's that dumb. So, he pulled out that book and was like, let's at least fill this out. The bucket wish list, couple wish list. And was like, let's at least fill this out together. You got me this for your, gift for our marriage. And in that scene, I saw a little bit of what all three of us have been saying about Taylor playing it up to be like, I put in all my effort into this and I tried as much as I could. And I'm going to walk away from this at least being able to tell everybody, all the watchers on, online and on TV to be like, I definitely did everything I could. Because I was like, wait a second, you just got back from what felt like an extremely awkward date where she was telling you she doesn't want to be with you without actually saying those words. And you're going to come back with, let's do a couple's bucket list together. Like,
That's a good point.
like that to me felt like he was kind of playing into a little bit, be like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be, and I was like, I don't know.
Interesting. Where it's almost like with all these couples, it's like they're, and part of how they tell the story is like one person's more the villain than the other.
Yeah.
Even with Brandon and Taylor, like Taylor made some mistakes too and did some messed up stuff, but Brandon is probably seen more as the villain.
Right.
Yeah.
And like in Katie and Derek, Katie is definitely seen more as the villain. And so that's an interesting point. I don't think I saw it that way, but I don't know. To me, he's like, going back to my golden retriever reference from before, like he feels just like that dog that is just like happy-go-lucky and like, somebody can like kind of be a jerk to it and it'll just still like hang out and it just kind of like lets it roll off his little back.
Maybe.
But the thing with Katie is I think when she sees him being childish and immature, she's just so angry at him because it's like, that's who I didn't get to be when I was a kid. And so like, how dare you have that thing? And she just keeps getting angry about that. And I just don't think that's something you ever get over. If you start to see someone that way, like if you haven't dealt with that stuff, like on your own, like this is going to keep playing out over and over. And normally I would be like, okay, cool. If relationship has any sort of foundation that's already been built, like maybe they can go somewhere from here, maybe like it's a good sign, it's usually a good thing to want to keep working on it.
Yeah.
But if you already know that stuff, if you've already uncovered that, then like what is there to grow from? Like, what could possibly change for you to stop thinking of this guy as a weirdo and a loser, as you have screamed in his face at a retreat weekend? Like, what are you doing?
And then you yelled at him, and then he goes back and is, I'm so sorry. Why are you apologizing? You've literally done nothing wrong.
That's not okay.
And I also wanted to say, this is something that really frustrated me when watching this. When they were driving along in the dirt road, they saw a wild turtle, and they decided to save the turtle. It is a wild animal. Leave the wild animal in its natural habitat and stop disturbing the thing. Who are you to say that animal needed saving in the first place?
That's right.
That made me so mad. Yeah. I'm glad that 5 minutes later they cut to the clip of they talked to the pet store, sounded like, and were like, leave the wild animal in its place, please. And they returned the animal from being saved. Like, what?
Yeah.
That really made me mad.
How much do you want to bet that was just someone on the crew? Like, no, don't do that, guys. Like, this turtle's going to die. You don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
Just that the arrogance of that, like, I mean, isn't that, I think we see this in other ways where it's when like, I know nothing about this animal or its habitat or what it survives on or what it's like with other turtles, but it's in the middle of the road, so I'm going to save it. And I don't know any of those things, but my incompetence is superior to its surroundings because this is the wild. So you're going to take this animal home and put it in a glass cage. Like, there's no need.
My gosh.
No, I'm on board with that. I'm just like, the arrogance of that is just unbelievable. Of like, I can take care of you better than your natural environment could. Yeah. Like, I wanted to slap her so hard. Like, great, have your kid moment, like, get the turtle out of the road. That's a great thing to do. Like, make sure it doesn't get run over by a car. But like, leave it there then. Like, it's fine. Does it look like it's hurt in any way? No. Leave it.
The name for the turtle was pretty funny, though. It was pretty solid.
But his name is Cal.
Cal.
He's not a pastor yet.
I wonder how Pastor Cal felt about that. They should have brought that up. First of all, I hear
the name in the first place.
So.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
Okay, I'm trying to like. Sorry. Go ahead.
So to change topic, another thing with them. Did you notice at the end of decision day? So both of them said yes, they're going to commit. They want to be together. At the end of decision day, they had a preview to the reunion episode.
So I want to save that. If you don't mind. I want to save that because
that's fine.
We have a lot to talk about next episode.
Because So before we go into that, if you don't mind, I have to. One of the things that I noticed this with her, I noticed this with Michael and Mika. You're in a partnership, right? And I think we're in a situation where, for most relationships, each person is a 50-50 partner. Why is it always on the guy to come up with the date and to come up with the hangouts? Like, the one couple in this season that it wasn't like that, Jessica and Austin, they're the most successful one. She's the one who's like, oh, you know what? Oh, I heard you like to swing and that you were very much into baseball. Let's go on a baseball date. He also did dates for her. It's not always on the guy to have to come up with this stuff. And it frustrates me to no end because the same people who will, like, you could tell with Derek and Katie, she was frustrated by that. But instead of her doing a date night, she would wait for him to do it. And if he doesn't do it, she then gets angry and says he lacks initiative. You're the one who's literally not doing it. You're waiting for him to act. That is the lack of initiative. Like, you are so fucking hypocritical doing that. And I think it's this, like, we're in this culture where it's the man or the guy is always the pursuer. So there's this weird double standard of, no, he has to be pursuing. He has to be, if it's a partnership, both people. Like, that's one of the things, honestly, with us, with Ashley, where I was like, oh, this is one of the things that made me think, oh, this is something that's going to be great, is when, like, you had date nights as well. Like, it wasn't just me coming up with dates. It wasn't just me coming up with where we're going to go. I'm like, oh, this is great. It's not all on me to constantly think of what we're going to do next.
Oh,
just-
the story of a goon Ashley.
It's just in a rant. But it's frustrated me quite a bit. Am I wrong in thinking this? Or
No, I think you're right on. I think that's definitely like a societal thing where, and again, in heterosexual relationships, this is a thing where, and Katie has talked about this too before. Like, remember when they were having one of their many mac and cheese dinner nights, and she was like,
Gourmet.
"You have me, Derek. Like, you have to pursue me." And she's like holding her wine with her mac and cheese, and I was like, "You can't do that when you have mac and cheese in front of you, sweetie. Like, you
don't look as classy as you think you do.
Do that in front of a charcuterie board. Like, yeah, sure, but like, you can't." Anyways,
was like, what if she did that with some like what's the dino chicken nugget? The dino nuggets, like
eating her chicken nugget. Like, you don't have me, okay? I'm like a real classy bitch.
With like a Lunchable or something. Like,
picks up her juice box. Like, you know what?
Wait a second. There's more juice in here. 1 second.
Oh, just slurping it. Oh. But like, she clearly has that mentality of like, you gotta. It's that same messed up scenario of it's like the woman has the goods and the guy is trying to get them. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, well, he's also got some goods. Like, maybe he's wanting you to get him too. Like, if you start to think about it that way, it gets a lot more interesting because then you're creating the relationship that you want for yourself, and it's benefiting both of you. Like, and I think that's so important to know. Like, what your needs are, and you meet your needs first, and you kind of demonstrate to your partner how you want to be treated. Where it's like,
exactly,
like, not to focus on Agu and I too much, but like, I learned this like within the last year or so, where I was like, I love to have flowers in the house, but there's no way he's going to read my mind and know that to pick up flowers on the way home from work. So like, I buy my own damn flowers. And guess what? After doing that for every once in a while, he would come home with some flowers and it would be great. But I didn't expect it because I was already getting what I wanted because I fulfilled that. You know what I mean? Like, once I had like bought myself flowers and I came home and he had some already. So like, we got to mix them up and it was really cute.
Yeah.
Oh, you two are so cute.
Yeah, but like...
But it's like, you have to know yourself enough where like, if I expect him to read my mind and be like, this is the thing you have to do to show me love. Like, no, I show that love to myself first. I'm showing you how I want to be loved. Right. Like, that's one of the many things. And like, I don't think they're really in that mindset yet. She's very much of, you need to fulfill my needs. Yeah. And you do.
And so something I was struggling with as I was watching this, hearing Katie interact with Derek, I kept going back to, well, if you do end up breaking up with him, and I'm here just assuming she's going to be the one to break up with him, is going to be almost like a blind side to him, because this whole time you're saying, I'm okay having nasty arguments with you. Great coming back and having some great sex and make up sex. Hey, I tell you I don't want to be with you, but decision day I say yes. And so I keep seeing this theme between them of poor communication, and in a way she does tell him what she doesn't like about the relationship. You know, she wants to feel that she's being, pursued. Right. She wants him to initiate. She wants him to be more mature. Yes, she is communicating in a way, but at the same time she's not, because she's not, to your point, Ashley, communicating what initiation to her looks like and what maturity to her looks like. Because a lot of people could also argue that he is showing initiative. Just, if you think about to get really, into sex here. If you think about the entire day as part of your foreplay, and you're starting to build that attraction and get to, really feel each other out during the day. And then by the time you go to be more intimate in, wherever you decide to lay down with that person, you are in a way initiating earlier. It's just in a different way. And maybe for her, she's like, well, you're not initiating because I want to have sex right now, and you're not reading my mind because you're not pursuing. Like, it's like,
you're never going to get what you want. Believe me, if she put in 2% effort to like let him know that she was like trying to do some stuff, like he would be like all about it. Like it it's just about like being okay with throwing it out there, and if it's not a good time, then being like, okay, try again later.
I'm doing Zac and Mindy. Well, there's nothing to talk about in episode 15 because they were not in it. But on Decision Day, I was actually surprised that they both came back.
Yeah.
For that in the first place. So where to even start? What are your thoughts on? They both said no. Surprised. Actually, I don't even think they asked them because there's no point.
Yeah, I don't think they asked him. It was like, we don't care what you think. So,
Mindy, what do you think? Do you ever want to get back with him?
I was worried at first because the way they did the preview from at the end of episode 15, they were very clever in cutting it together to make it seem like Mindy was going to go back and say yes. And I'm going to have to go back and look at that because it was like nothing even remotely close to that happened in their actual meeting. Yeah, I was like, okay, like
I wonder if they use
crafting the story.
I wonder if they use audio from like previous, like earlier in the season or something, because she never said those words.
No,
and then
it was.
I think they just pieced it together really well.
Yeah. I mean, good on them.
Oh, they got me. Like, they got me. I basically was yelling, "I told you so." Like, it was.
He was like, "I'm gonna be so vindicated." Like, they're all gonna.
They get back together.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, now that he knows better."
They're back together.
Now that he knows better, he came out there with a dozen of roses or something. Like, I just.
Hey, he did show up on time, so I give that to him.
Yeah, I was just happy to see that she was still very confident in her decision, that she felt like she had made, been a really good advocate for herself. She shows up in her little dress with her hair back and looking like a power corporate woman. Like, yeah, this is my ex-husband. It's fine. Like, I don't need him anymore. Like, just very, she seemed just very like connected with herself and sure of herself. And I think that's just going to set her up really well for her next relationship, and being able to move on from this experience and having learned maybe a few things, but really just understanding that she can kind of take anything. Like, she's so tough and strong in that way. So I was happy about that part. And, he did the typical Zac thing, and who knows what he actually said, but he was there.
As soon as he started talking, they threw in the audio, that like whatever sound effect that is that they use for him, where you can tell they think he's talking in circles. It's like a goofy soundtrack. It's well done, editors. You've done well. What do you think?
Yeah, I just like that they were civil to one another. You know what? You don't have to hate the other person that you maybe just don't end up with in a marriage. That's fine. Things work in their own ways. I liked how much they respected each other. And please, like, everyone else, learn from how to just respect another human being. Yes, we had a lot to say about Zac, but he is still a human being. And I just appreciated how much Mindy took that to heart in their conversations. And hey, they wish each other the best going forward, and they'd have to be nasty about it. It was great.
Yeah, there was no point in being nasty, and it's like they understood that. And she was even able, like, she, in the most respectful way, was like, you didn't treat me very well as a husband, or you didn't really show up in this marriage the way that I did. And she just said it just like that, where it was just matter of fact, like, this is what happened, and that's why. Like, there should be no questions about why I wanted to divorce you. Like, and I think you get that. And what confused me, as always, with him is like his reactions to things always seem really weird. Like, it seems like he kind of has this, how like you have different reactions where in a situation where it doesn't make sense, where like when I'm nervous, I laugh, or sometimes I talk a lot. And maybe if I'm scared, I do the same thing. And it like doesn't make sense. Like, nothing funny is happening, but that's just like my coping mechanism for those moments. It seems like his is almost just kind of smirking and smiling, and it comes off super gross. Like, it felt a little bit like he was almost like happy with how things had gone or something, or it just I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and say like this is just something he does when he doesn't know what to do. But it really came off as like, oh, you're really being an a-hole here. Like when you should be a little bit more explanatory and a little bit more hard on the table of like, this is what happened. I'm sorry that it happened this way and I wish you the best. But it felt very like douchey the way he handled it.
Dr. Viviana calls him out for it too. She's like, "Why are you laughing?" Yes,
Yeah.
she's great.
Like, what are you doing?
Why are you enjoying? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I was also just confused by some of his comments. He was just like, "I am great for women. I, know how to treat women." And I'm like, "Whoa, now what? Are you on an
Knowing
interview?"
what I have to offer women.
Yeah,
He said that. What does that mean?
What?
I feel. Oh, that was very loud. I was rooting for this guy so much, so hard, and then this hurt. It's just like I don't understand. Like I think I understand. Okay, let me rephrase this. I get why he had a hard time giving his all. I don't understand why he didn't call it quits earlier in the season. Like
Mm-hmm.
she's not your type. You know that, and you know that you can't get over it. Like in that weird jumble of word soup that he gave, he did mention he mentioned like, "Oh, I can't. I'm not able to do it unless there's a connection." I'm going to take that as I'm unable to put my all in it if I don't find them physically attractive. I'm going to try to translate that from what he was saying. And if you know that's the case for you, and you know you don't find her attractive, why are you why are you putting her through this?
Yeah.
Why are you putting yourself through this? Just call it quits. That's the thing. I know a lot of people are angry that he didn't find her attractive. I'm less angry at that. Like the way I view that is that's more on the show, honestly. Like there needs to be a way to match. Like don't just take it off of what they're saying, because we've seen that in previous seasons where the person will say, "Oh, I'm looking for this, this, and this," but they're not actually looking for that. Like I don't know, show them a bunch of different celebrities and be like, which one of these celebrities is your celebrity crush? Like,
Or just open up a stock photo gallery. Like,
yeah,
tell us what your type is. Like,
I
let us
think they
know.
do that a little bit in the application.
I hope so.
I don't know if I definitely have seen in some episodes and maybe previous seasons, 'cause I know right now in these couple seasons we're not seeing it, that they've always changed up what they try to do to look at your favorite kind of type or something, or your preferences and physical characteristics.
Okay.
But at some points they like show you physical pictures, other times they like ask for in words, height, color, and hair, race, ethnicity, that kind of stuff. So yeah. But at the end of the day, it's still like asking someone, what do you think is physically attractive? It's an easy way to say, to come off as racist, or something of sort, to say like, or just, superficial with, Taylor's whole rant on 6'2" or whatever her thing was. Like, it's very easy to have someone become defensive when you ask them what they prefer.
Yeah.
And for Zac, I mean, we all saw between us through, like, he has a type and he does not deviate very much from that type. He knows, he can't pursue that afterwards. And I think it would have turned out better if he just been a little more upfront with that from the beginning. He would have at least been able to start trying a relationship if that were the case.
Maybe if, I feel like I'm turning into AJ, where I'm like, I could direct this all better than you guys. I'm not saying that because I empathize. There's a lot that goes into making this show, but I wonder if they were to use, like, so you have the people that you think are going to be your finalists, or they're like on the top of your list, and then you show them. So if it's Zac, you show him like the 3 different girls that you think might match with him, and ask him like, okay, out of these 3 people, who do you find attractive? And that way it's not you're not you don't have to spell it out. Because I get, like you said, you make a good point. Sometimes you don't. Like, honestly, if you were to ask me, I don't know if I'd even be able to vocalize it. It's like something that when I see it, I know. So I get how that's hard and difficult. So maybe it's showing them the pictures of whoever and then being like, is there a person here that you find more attractive than the others? Or maybe, I don't
It's
know.
like a lineup.
Yeah.
Number 4, please step forward.
Can you say a few words for us? We can get a feel for your voice. Thank you. Tell us the joke that you tell at all parties. Thank you.
Good.
I can also see how it's just really hard to like match someone up because you could end up already putting a picture in their head, and if they don't see that, they're gonna be like, oh well, I chose, you know, somebody else, or I wanted somebody else, or something like that. Like, you want that person, and hopefully this is also just some self-police that people do for themselves. Like, you want that person that when they reach the altar to be like, you know what, I'm gonna give this a shot. This maybe wasn't the 6'2" person that I wanted, but you know what? I still think that XYZ is still attractive about this person, and I don't know, like, yes, I think that everybody does approach the altar that way to be like, I want to give this a shot, whether or not they see that through the 8 weeks or not, but whatever.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the problem is on him, right, for not even trying. So you're right. Like, I think it's clear, you know, everyone has their list of things that are very important to them. Clearly, this is one of the things for him. And it's just like, you know this about yourself, just tap out. Like, you know, like, and I feel bad for the judges because you're right. Like, I'm sure he asked for like an athletic type and they're like, oh, well, she's a figure skater. That's athletic. Like, I get that. But it's just, if there's another way for them to like double check, that would be nice.
I know.
Yeah.
That is super rough because even saying like, oh, I want someone who's athletic, like athletes come in all shapes and sizes. Like, she could have been a power lifter or a figure skater, and like they probably have different, you know, body types. And so it's all about
everyone's like those figures in like bodybuilding. It's like figure all the way up to like bodybuilder, like every single,
like it's just different. Like there's everything in between, and not all athletes look like the typical athlete that you know we're kind of led to believe are athletic people. So it's just, I think it all comes down to individual perception and how do you even start to gauge that. And so I think for me, it's most important to, yes, understand like what that person's type is and hope that they can be as straightforward and candid with you as possible, because this is a big decision. If it's like, it's clearly a lot of people are only comfortable like marrying someone within their ethnicity, but you don't like backing people into a corner there and trying to be like, well, like, who don't you want to date? Like, you have to be so careful about how you like have those conversations. But I think the most important thing besides that is, like you just said, like having someone who's willing to give it a shot. Like whoever comes down that aisle, even if that spark isn't there right away, like who's okay with just saying, okay, this is 8 weeks and we're going to see what this is. And there's, you know, we're going to do our best and we'll see what happens. And just leaving it open to that and not like, this is my forever marriage, this is my person, and like getting really bullheaded about it the way that I think like Mika and Michael kind of slid down that path a little bit, where it was just like, go, 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 you know, like pushing that brick wall again. And, and it's just like, sometimes you have in this, you're being matched up by experts, yes, but no one's going to know you as well as you know yourself. So as much as you can be transparent up front, as much as you can give yourself to the thing, even if all of that stuff worked out right, if that person walks down the aisle and you spend some time with them on the honeymoon and you're just like, it's just not here, I just know it. And I know that makes me a jerk and people are going to be mad. You have to be the one to say that. You have to be the bad guy. And you have to just be like, look, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but like, this just isn't.
Actually, like
for me.
Mabel, didn't you say that for Mika and Michael? You said like Michael's the type of person who will force you to do the breakup. Like Zac is the definition of that. Like, he clearly didn't want to be in the relationship, but he was basically waiting for Mindy to say that. And it's like,
Honestly, yeah.
If you know you don't want to be in it,
He's willing to talk to Lindsay about it.
Giving her a call after that decision day, like, hey girl, what you doing? Want to go get some tapas?
oh my god, tapas sound good.
Oh, I want tapas.
Tapas sound
That
good.
doesn't so long.
Ooh.
Yeah, is there? I don't know anything else to really.
What
add
else?
For them.
Yeah.
I think moral of the story here, we love how Mindy stayed strong through all of this.
Team Mindy.
Yes.
This is true. Actually,
Yep.
in terms of like if there was a favorite person this season, it probably would be Mindy for me. Like she was awesome. She was just so mature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that can be our recap for this episode now that we know how everybody decides, is who is your favorite person throughout the whole season. Because now that you took Mindy, we can't do that. But
Right.
Yeah, you can take
think about
Mindy.
it. Like,
I've been a fan of Mindy since the beginning. Mentioning
Right.
her friends.
Actually,
Right?
yeah, to be fair, I was more of a fan of Zac in the beginning. So,
that's true. That's true.
well, okay,
Yeah.
you guys can have Mindy. It's fine. It's fine.
Are we fighting over Mindy right now?
Are we just all deciding on Mindy?
You can marry her
Cohesively.
instead. Fine. I don't care.
Like if I couldn't pick Mindy, and I don't even know who I would say because
It's probably
Yeah.
I liked how Austin is just super chill. Just go with the flow. Be like, hey, I know who you like. This is who you are. You want to take that crock pot? Fine. I don't really care. That's not the most important thing. We're going to this mini getaway anyways. Like he's just that kind of person to flow. You know, go with
Right.
the punches.
And like, and
MVP.
unlike Derek, like he actually has a freaking backbone in his body, where like he's not going to just fold like a kitchen table when pushed by his partner. I don't know. I'm just throwing analogies that don't make any sense here. I'm so mad about Derek and Katie.
You have some strong opinions this season.
I just don't like Derek and like,
you don't like Katie.
which is like I would want to hang out with Katie. That's the thing that angers me the most with her. Like she'd be
It's a
fun.
thing. People in relationships completely different
Very
than
different, yeah.
other relationships.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, that's a real thing. I am so excited to watch the reunion episode. This is when it's
Yes.
like no holds barred. I really want to see them interviewing Zac and get him like just pin him down and get him to answer some questions. There's like some hinting around different things with like infidelity that comes up, so we don't really know what that is yet. But like, I'm ready to hear all of it, and then see if our couples who, you know, if they're still together at this point, like that's still on the table that they might not like technically last, even though they said yes on decision day. So we have a lot to look forward to
We do.
for our final episode.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
listeners. Make sure to subscribe. Listen
Yeah.
to us everywhere.
Subscribe and all the places.
Subscribe below.
Yeah, next week we'll be talking about, you know, the reunions. That's episode 17, season 10. You know, Cup of Three podcast and all the places. So hit us up, but we'll see you next time.
Slide in those DMs. Oh,
All right.
not our
See you guys.
DMs.